Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Holly Gibson, Senior Product Specialist here at UDA Technologies, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's webinar on Redline Planroom, the single source of truth for dynamic collaboration with your team. Now, I'm joined today by my colleague Jordan Davis, also Senior Product Specialist here at UDA.
Hello, everyone.
And again, we're so glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to UDA Technologies and ConstructionOnline is our web-based project management platform currently helping over 750,000 construction pros in over 75 countries all over the world manage $80 billion in projects every single day. And one thing that we know so many of you have in common, no matter which types of projects you're managing, is that you do need to manage plans and drawings for those jobs. And so we're really excited today to focus on Redline Planroom, which will give you a way to really share that information with your team and make sure that they're always kept up to date with the latest set of drawings and information. So as we go through today's session, we'll be discussing how to use Redline Planroom to really accomplish that so that your teams can stay productive and efficient. We'll start by taking a look at the Smart Upload sequence, which is a step-by-step process that will ensure your sheets are numbered accurately, named accurately, tagged appropriately. That Smart Upload sequence will also involve auto-linking of your callouts to detail sheets. So that scanning process using our OCR technology is going to scan and link for those callouts so that you don't have to go through and search for alternate sheets that are referenced throughout your plan set. You also have the ability to filter by version sets and tags so that you can find the information in sheets that you're looking for in a hurry when you're filtering, when you're taking advantage of those filters. And then, of course, the current set view, which is really what the end goal is. We want to ensure that your team is always working with the most up-to-date revisions, that they can't accidentally jump in and look at, a sheet that's a couple of versions old and maybe create issues like rework by working off of an old plan set. So that current set view is really going to ensure that your team always has the most up-to-date information, and we'll take a look at comparing revisions. One thing that Redline does is allow you to overlay new revisions on top of previous ones in different colors so that you can quickly see what's been changed from revision to revision. So we can't wait to dive in with that for you today.
That's right. Now, not to hold us up too much, but before we get started, if you have any questions as we work through today, Holly and I are going to take some time towards the end of the webinar to address questions that have come our way as we work through the different topics. Take a look at the GoToWebinar panel where you'll find a section titled, you guessed it, Questions. There's a space inside of the questions box that will let you type in your question, send it our way. We'll be flagging items as we move through, and we're really excited to find out what you're hoping to learn from today's Redline Planroom webinar. Now, with that said, let's get started. Now, we understand that managing your plan sets is probably one of the tougher tasks of keeping teams up to date. You're dealing with not only your internal team and their files on their computer or, the last printed set. Gosh, who knows how much that actually costs to maintain especially as jobs start to scale in size and scope. But it is a challenge not only for internal teams, but also to keep extended teams up to date, consultants, design teams, subcontractors. Everyone needs to be working off the same exact set of information, or you're going to understandably run into a number of different, easily avoidable issues along the way. And that is exactly what we've designed Redline Planroom to accomplish. And Holly, I think that our design team internally has done a great job of not only making Redline easy to use, but easy to start using as well.
That's right. So when we think about providing that information to the team, of course, the first step is going to be choosing a place for that to go and getting the information there. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of teams almost get a little bit intimidated because, a set of plans is a little bit different or a lot different really than like a standard document. There's so much more going on, so much more information that you might want to communicate, and a lot's at stake and making sure that everyone has the most up-to-date information. Rework and having to go back and do things because of mistakes made from working off of an old plan set can really cost a lot of time, a lot of money on a project, can make your clients sort of lose confidence when we don't want that to happen. And so there's definitely a lot at stake. So we want this process to be as easy for you from the beginning as possible. When we think about one way to make that easy, of course, it's finding, one place where everything can go for the project. So when you're in ConstructionOnline, of course, every project has that central hub where all of the job information is going to go. And your Planroom is our central hub for communication and storage around our plans and drawings. Now, to get started, it's really easy with that smart upload sequence we mentioned earlier. So we want to take you through that and show you all the things that Redline will be doing for you and working for you, even from just the very beginning of uploading a new plan set. So our first step here is going to be just to choose to upload some plans. And you can see that right now my only option here is to create a new set. I haven't added anything to this project yet, so already we know that my step one is going to be to create a new set. So let's just say that this is our preliminary set. Maybe we want this to be our preliminary set here. You can name this however you want, and you can adjust the issuance date. So if the plan set is dated maybe a couple of days ago and you're uploading it, when you receive it, you can always adjust that if you need to for accurate record keeping. Our next step, of course, will just be to choose a set of plans to upload. So those can be either on your computer, they could be within your file system for ConstructionOnline, or they could be in some sort of cloud file storage. I have some that have been shared with me through a Google Drive, so I'm just going to jump in and grab them from there. So the nice thing about this is really no matter where you have the plan stored, you will have easy access.
Yeah, that's right. Of course, when it comes to the upload process, we wanted to make this as simple and as straightforward and as accommodating as possible. In addition to actually driving through the upload button, you could also just drag and drop the plan set directly onto the page, which would then start walking you through the smart upload sequence.
That's right. Now this upload sequence is going to move pretty quickly because I've chosen a relatively small set, only 5 sheets. I want us to go ahead and get through these steps, but you'll notice that the very first thing that happened as soon as that set was uploaded is that it began scanning for sheet numbers. So that's our first step, and that's an important step because a lot does key off of those sheet numbers. So that's where some of this machine learning starts to come into play, where we're really using that OCR technology to scan through and automatically number these sheets for you. You'll notice that what we're seeing here is the name of the file along with a preview of the sheet in whole, and then also a preview of the section of the sheet where that sheet number was pulled from. So in this case, it looks like probably that bottom right corner. That's pretty standard, and it looks like that's where we're pulling the sheet numbers from for this set as well. I can see that all of my sheet numbers are correct by doing a quick comparison, and so my next step is just going to be to confirm that so that we can move to the next step in the upload process here.
Now the next step in the upload sequence is for ConstructionOnline and Redline Planroom to scan and look for the sheet title or the sheet name. So much like the sheet numbers, Redline is going to scan through using our machine learning OCR-based technology to try and find, what is most likely going to be the sheet title. And it typically does a fantastic job. Now, in some cases, though, something on the page might be where a title should be. In this case, this is the title of our project, so close, but we can quickly update and adjust where the actual title for the sheet is.
Yeah, so you notice that all I had to do was just select choose a new scan area, and it's going to bring me to this section where I can actually look around on the plan, see where the name is located, and then tell it to scan that area instead. What's happening here on this sheet is that the sheet names are actually pretty small, which is not typical for most sets, and so it was choosing a larger text. But I know that this is my sheet name, so I'm just going to highlight this area so that we can go ahead and scan this for our sheets. Now you can do this as well for your sheet numbers, so this rescan sequence is available anytime you need it, so it does accommodate a wide range of plans and formats here. So I'm going to just hit choose selected scan area, and when I do that, it'll give me a preview, letting me know what it found. Looks like that's correct, so I actually want to go ahead and apply that to all of my sheets since I know that these are named in a uniform way. And then notice how instant that was. As soon as we've made that selection, now all of my sheet names have immediately updated. So it does a fantastic job of pulling that information for you. The other thing that's happening on this step is that it is searching for a way to automatically tag these sheets to their appropriate section. So for example, these sheets all are A's, which typically is going to mean architectural, so that's why those tags are applied.
That's right. Now, most of the sheets that we're looking at here are tagged, well, actually every sheet is tagged with an architectural tag, but I also noticed for future filtering, I might want to also add in additional tags to the sheet, well, really are available tags as well. I'm going to set up a roof tag in case I wanted to filter down and see all of our pages that had to do with, well, roofing later on as well. And it's really that simple. Now, of course, Redline is going to add in some automated tags for you, but you can enhance the system and make filtering in the future much easier. This really comes into play for larger plan sets. Now, moving on to the last step in series, Redline is going to try and scan for different callouts throughout all of the pages and start to build automated linkages between different sheets.
Yeah, that's right. So, of course, most sheets are going to have references to detail sheets or other sheets within that set. And so you want to be able to quickly get to those references when you're looking at the sheets. You don't really want to have to stop what you're doing, go back to the list, hunt through and find those. So having those linked together is super convenient. But if you're doing it by hand, which you can do in Redline, but if you're doing it by hand, it can take a little bit of time to go through and do that. And so our machine learning technology is going to look for those symbols, look for the appropriate sheet names, go ahead and create those links and relationships between those for you so that that's, again, much less work that you have to do. Now, again, we've worked with a relatively small set today, so we can go ahead through this upload sequence at a pretty fast pace. But I actually was working on a set earlier that had 158 pages, over 1,200 callouts, and we were still able to get through that in just a few minutes, maybe like 5-6 minutes for the whole thing. So it does do a fantastic job, really, no matter if you have 20 callouts or 120 or 320. And so of course the more you have, the more time it is saving, and it's also going to be very accurate as well. So Redline will do a great job finding that, a lot of accuracy. And now that we've finished that upload sequence, our sheets are now ready for us to work with. Everything is automatically named, indexed, linked together. And just to give you an idea of what those call out links look like once we're working within a plan, we'll go ahead and just open one of these up.
Now, Holly, I always have a suspicion, and I've confirmed this in a number of different conversations with people, that the typical use of this callout is specifically to look at it visually and then turn to the page reference, whether that's physical or, like you'd mentioned before, trying to go back into the set of plans and find the page. So my suspicion was always that, well, we talk about this callout auto linking as if it's something that people, are familiar with or used to, but I always thought this is something newer, or at least whenever we get to show it off, it's kind of an aha moment for a lot of people.
Definitely. And one of the things that you'll find, so if we take a look at my sheet here, I really haven't added any markups yet. This is a fresh set, but what we are seeing are these red shaded dots or areas throughout the plan. So what this is letting me know is that those are the areas where those are linked. So our typical process might be to first zoom in really closely, see which sheet is being referenced, and maybe if we're using a digital system, kind of flip over and find that particular sheet. In this case, it looks like it's a link to an elevation. Instead, with the call out linking, what I can do is go ahead and just click on that, and you'll notice this new panel opens on the right hand side of my screen, going ahead and showing me exactly which sheet it's linked to, a preview of that sheet so that I can take a quick look. And if I actually want to go ahead and open that up, I can do that, and it's actually going to open in a separate tab so that I can really easily flip back and forth between these two, all while I'm working. So no need to close this one down and go into the new one that you want to look at. You can really see all of that, right here in one section just by flipping back and forth.
Of course, with a smaller set of only 5 pages, this could be trivial in some cases to move back and forth. That's understandable. But when you start scaling up to 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 plus sheets, this really starts to add up in terms of time savings.
Definitely so. And I think even for a small plan set, it can save you a lot of time, because that's just so much back and forth that you're avoiding, and so much accuracy that you've added now. Because the thing is, when you think about how you might approach it as the person who's uploaded the sheets, that's way different than now making this available to a team of 20 different people who are also going to need to search for these callouts and interpret them and make sure they're going to the right place. And this really takes the guesswork out of that. Even if we only have 5 sheets, that linking is already done, so I don't have to trust that a different team member that really doesn't maybe have availability to ask me questions in real time is going to get to the right place. I know that they are, because this is linked up correctly here.
That's right. Now, speaking in terms of finding items quickly and taking the guesswork out of really viewing your plan sets, the typical plan set that I've seen, Holly, is really just one or a couple of different PDF files that are just stacked together, tossed in a folder, or printed out in a lot of cases. There's not a lot of information to help people who are trying to find specific pages really know what they're looking for. They'll have to jump in and do some type of search within the document and try and scroll up and down, through sets and sets of pages just to find what they're looking for. We really think that the Redline Planroom interface can really cut down the time to find exactly what you're looking for.
That's right. Before we get into really maybe marking up these plans and looking at, what we're doing within the sheet itself, it's helpful to know from an organizational standpoint how this is going to be set up. Now, when you think back to those tags, for example, that we looked at earlier, you have this fantastic filter set as well. So as we're looking at all of our plans listed here, we can really come into our filters and now maybe filter down by a specific version set. We could filter down by a specific tag. So like Jordan, earlier you needed to tag for roofing because we wanted to, be able to see that. So maybe we want to filter by that, or maybe we want to see, do we have any telecom sheets in here? And it looks like I don't, but it's a really fast way for me to be able to find that. If we want to look at that roof tag that you've added, now I can see that we tagged only one of our sheets that way, so I can get to that one really quickly. And same thing for different version sets that we've added in as well. Now this really starts to get into one of the things that I think is really important about Redline Planroom, and one of the goals that I want to see my customers achieve, and something that I know so many people struggle with, which is just keeping everyone on an up-to-date set. So when we're thinking about Redline Planroom, of course, this is available to your team within your ConstructionOnline account. It can also be available to your subcontractors and trades through the TeamLink portal. It can be available to even clients and owners through their portal as well. But one thing that we always want is for everyone to be looking at and working off of the most up-to-date set of plans. Now, since this is a new project, all of my plans you can see are labeled with a V1. So I don't really have any revisions yet, but you can see that the tab that I have selected in our default tab here is going to be that current set view. So the goal of this view is to always put the most recent plan on top. Those are just laid right on the top, so that no matter how many revisions you've added in, the most current set of plans is always what your team is looking at. We can go in and search for prior revisions, but that's a really deliberate process. What we want to do is make it so that the current set is always front and center, and that's really what Redline does. So for example, in this set, pretty new, but as we scroll through some of our other projects, we'll see that, for example, this one has a mix of V2s and V1s. So as we start to add in those revisions, I could go back and find the V1s if I need to, but really my team is always going to be working off of this most current set of plans, no matter how many of these revisions I've added in.
Yeah, a really common question at this point would be, well, okay, so this makes sense from the browser perspective, but let's say my guys in the field, they're trying to pull up the plans. How do I make sure that they're looking at the most current set of plans out in the field, let's say through the mobile app, or they're on their tablet or something like that? Well, the short answer is once you've uploaded the revision, you're done. It actually does take deliberate effort to filter or look back at previous versions of the current set of plans. All that really needs to happen is when you have a revision, you upload the revision. ConstructionOnline will find the sheet number and pair it with the previous version of the plan, or plan pages, plural. And it will take care of handling and tagging and numbering the revisions for you, and will deliver pretty much in real time at that point to everyone else once the plan has been processed, the most current set. No extra effort required, no need to send messages. Every time someone opens up the plan set, well, look at that, it's the most recent version.
It's the most recent one. So what that looks like for you is if we received, let's say, a new revision, we received a new plan set. And by the way, this works whether you receive an entirely updated set or just an updated sheet. Either way, it's going to work beautifully, because what we're really going by here is the sheet number. So one reason it is important to make sure that those sheet numbers are correct when you go through that scanning or upload sequence is that we're going to be looking for that sheet number to determine, if this is a new or updated sheet. So in this case, we're just going to upload a new set. We'll call this revised. And as we begin to go through the process, much of it will look the same as our initial upload. We're still going to just, find the set that we want to go ahead and load in. We'll go ahead and select that and get it going. But you'll start to notice as we go through the scanning process here that when these sheet numbers come in, when those are populated and we're reviewing those, that now Redline Planroom is going to let us know actually a sheet number already exists in a previous set. So it's telling me now a revision is going to be created for this sheet. And I can actually even see a revision history. So I can see that earlier today on July 23rd, I've already uploaded this. I can also see that I'm now uploading it again. And so again, if you've done this once or twice or 7 or 8 or more times throughout the project, you'll actually be able to see that full revision history. So you'll know exactly what's happening for each of these sheets. Now, the rest of the process is going to look really similar. So we'll go ahead and get that done here. And then you'll notice that all of my sheets in this set will now be V2s as opposed to V1s.
Something else to note as we're moving through, if this is a revision, you might have noticed that custom tag that we'd set for the roof sheet was actually maintained as well, which is a nice touch. You don't have to repeat the process for every single revision, for every single thing that you did the first time, but you will be able to upload, updated sheets for your team and really kick off the process of communicating out those changes to everyone that's involved in the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So like, for example, here you'll see now I have all of these V2s. If I'm sharing these with my subcontractors through like perhaps my TeamLink portal, we'll just turn sharing on. What they're going to see when they log in is always just simply going to be, again, that most current set. So there's never any question. That information is communicated out, and then anytime they go in to open that sheet, again, it's going to be that most current piece of information. Now, sometimes though, with revisions, we do actually want to go back and not only look at previous revisions, but try to understand what has actually changed. So that's another common question that I get, or some, things that I hear from clients that I'm working with is, it can be so tough sometimes when you get a new sheet or a new set to know like exactly what's different between the revision I have now and the one I had one version ago or 2 versions ago, and how to be able to easily see that visually. Sometimes the change is communicated, in words, but we really want to be able to see that in a very visual way. So I've actually loaded in for us a sheet that has a couple of revisions here so that we can take a look at what the comparison looks like. Now, to get to the comparison, the first thing we want to do is come to our current set, choose the sheet where we want to look at those prior revisions, and then what we'll do is just right click and choose the compare revisions option. Now what this will do is pull up a list of all of the different versions or revisions for this particular sheet. And one thing that's really unique about Redline Planroom is that we actually allow you to compare as many revisions as you'd like. So in this case, I only have 2, so we'll choose both of those. But if I had 3 or 4, we could actually go ahead and look at all of those together side by side. So it gives you not just a way to compare, but really a way to compare in a good bit more detail than you can get in any other system. So now that I've selected my revisions, I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that.
Yeah, now from this point, what we're going to see is really a collision map in a lot of ways between what was on set A or revision A, the original set, which we'll see in red, and revision 2, which is in blue. Now what we'll notice though is that there's also black lines all throughout the entire document. And what that's signaling to us is that both the red and the blue, or really all of the previous versions plus the current version, are now overlined or now overlaid on top of each other. And whenever there's a perfect collision where the lines are exactly meeting each other, we'll see that the lines will become this black color, meaning that, well, nothing changed here. This type of view is incredibly useful for communicating out very clearly to teams, both your internal team and also subcontractors, vendors, anyone else who might be involved in the project, to show them, well, what's different about version 2. Because like Holly mentioned, it's simple enough to explain, well, we took this section here in the bottom right of the ceiling and we shifted everything. Just like we rotated it 90 degrees or something like that. It's a lot harder to conceptualize that, and especially when you're just trying to get the job done, to know, okay, well, that's great, but like what's actually different, right? How should we do this, boss? What are we doing here? Well, and so to that end, we made it really simple to actually export this sheet, which you could then send out in a message or an announcement to let everyone on the team know, hey, everyone, we had some design changes come down the pipe. Here's our new marching orders.
Exactly. If you need to fine tune that alignment, you can. So you'll notice that I can turn layers on or off if I'd like to do that here. So if I want to see just V2 or just V1, I can do that. As soon as I turn them both on, you see those, both areas of overlap and areas of difference. And this export option that I just used is just going to export this out as an image so that I can really quickly, maybe attach this to something or, email or send this out to someone in a message, in ConstructionOnline perhaps. Just go ahead and get this communicated, and then you can even do a little bit more with it once you have it exported. So all sorts of wonderful things that you can do with these revision comparisons. Now I think this is a good time as well to, looks like we've had some great questions really start to come in. So as we're moving into more of the questions or Q&A part of our workshop here today, if any of you guys have questions that you would like to ask, definitely go ahead and continue sending those our way so that hopefully we'll have time to get to those before we wrap up. We did have one really excellent question already come in, which is related to revision. So we'll go ahead and head back over to our project here, but someone wants to know, if we're uploading revisions and we have already added markups, how can we kind of have those coexist together? How is that going to work? So one really nice thing about Redline and the way it handles this is that your markups that you've added, even if we add a revision on top of that, the markups themselves will still remain. So like, for example, if we come in and maybe do some quick markups to this sheet and then upload a new revision, you'll see that the markups themselves stay even as we get a fresh revision on the sheet.
Yeah, a couple of ways to handle this moving forward would be, as you add new revisions, to use the layers tool to set up a new layer for new markups, which will allow you to hide the previous markups as well. I was actually working with a client who was looking for a way to go back and kind of look at past revisions and past markups while still giving themselves a clean slate for adding in new information, new comments, new callouts, and things like that to revised sets of the plans. And we found that the layers tool was really effective for accomplishing this. You'll be able to set the markups on the page, add in your information as needed, and then, of course, whenever a new revised set makes its way out, at the whims of really chance because something unforeseen happened on site, or because an owner wants something moved 3 feet to the left, and surely that's really easy, right? That's the simplest thing in the world. But once you start moving into the complexities of making adjustments on the fly or as necessary, keeping up with the history of how you arrived at where you arrived at can really be critical to making sure that, you're staying on top of your project, maintaining confidence in your leadership and ability to execute. And also, should you need it, you have the documentation on hand.
This is probably also a good time before we add another revision on top of this to talk a little bit about some of the markup tools that are available within the Planroom as well. Another common question that I get, and it looks like maybe one of you are wondering about this today as well, is like what types of devices, or does this work with a touch screen, is usually kind of the question that I'll get there. And it does work beautifully. So especially when you're thinking about, maybe out in the field, very often someone's using a device that I recommend frequently is the Microsoft Surface Pro. I think it does a beautiful job with touchscreen technology. You have, of course, things like iPad or iPad Pros. We had a lot of fun at the International Builder Show this past year. We actually brought along Samsung Flips, which are really large touchscreen devices that you can, have in your office. So it really works well with a variety of touch screens. So if you've got a touch, you can engage one of these tools and really use the stylus or even your finger to write or draw on the plans. Today we're working for this webinar, we're working off of just a normal desktop computer here, so you can do that with your mouse and engage tools just like a freehand markup or drawing. Different shapes like the cloud tool that I've just used, along with things like rectangles or circles or ovals. You have different types of lines, including arrows that you can engage. Different types of text blocks or annotations that you can add to the sheet. We can also actually calibrate this so that we're setting the scale, and we can do some basic like linear and square foot measurements right on the sheet here as well. So all sorts of wonderful things that you can do from a drawing standpoint. But one thing that's really just awesome and unique about Redline is that because it is part of your ConstructionOnline project management platform, really all of the other tools in ConstructionOnline are also available to use as well. You can pin those to the sheet. So for example, if I have things like files or punch list items or to-dos or change orders or anything else that I want to drag and drop and link over to these sheets, I can actually do that from this panel. And if I don't have any, like in this project, but I'm looking at this and I think, okay, I need to make a task or I need to make a punch list item, I can actually just do that right from this panel. So for that reason, I see a lot of times that especially field-oriented teams really love this because they have all of ConstructionOnline at their fingertips in addition to the plan. So everything is right in front of them, all on one page, all in one section.
Yeah, depending on the industry segment, I think one of the more common tools that I've seen used recently is actually pinning RFIs directly to specific locations on the plan itself. It makes it really easy to communicate internally. If this is something like an internal RFI, just for clarification, to make sure that from a field to management standpoint that the field team doesn't make a mistake, or from an internal to external viewpoint, that you can actually generate a full request for information directly from the plan itself, and pull people's attention into the plan in a digital format, as opposed to having to track down the paper copy and then take a picture or like take some type of snipping tool or something like that. You can really save a ton of time loading it directly into the platform. And what's doubly unique about this is that back in the request for information panel, for instance, or the to-dos list, there will actually be a link to the Redline sheet, to the pin in question, that you can jump to from the platform back into the Redline sheet.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see if we want to just add in really anyone here. So we will, kind of pull someone into our RFI. So let's just go ahead and make one really quickly here. And maybe this needs to be a question about electrical fixtures for the first floor. So we will enter that information here. So we'll type up our RFI. So again, I'm not even having to leave the plan. If I'm looking at something and need to go ahead and get that done, I can get that created. Even go ahead and send out the emails. That's going to create immediately, and I can create a link to this plan. So if this is for our first floor, we're just gonna tag that maybe right there in that area. Now that I have that pinned, when we go back and look at our RFIs for this project, one of the really cool things that happens, Jordan, like you had mentioned, is that RFI, I can now, when I'm looking at it in this part of ConstructionOnline, I can see this little pin. This is a link to the sheet. So now that it's related to one of the sheets in my plan set, if I click on this, it's just going to take me to the plan room, open up the sheet that I need, and go ahead and open up that RFI. So again, I'm looking at it right side by side with the plan. And it's just such a visual element that you can add to the communication here.
Well, it's not just a visual element as well. That's really nice, but it's also an efficiency booster, because instead of needing to find and hunt down and then attach the correct sheet, which sometimes is impossible when you're looking at an entire set of plans that's in just one PDF file, you can just use the tools you already have at hand and get the information out faster. Mm-hmm. And of course, it cuts down on really questions that might come up inside of the team, like, well, what sheet was that again? All they have to do is click on the pen icon when they're looking at the RFI from their perspective, and it will take them directly to the sheet in question.
Yeah, that's right. So, for example, we can take a look at our TeamLink portal for our subcontractors for this project, and you'll notice that, like with the to-do that we created and tagged to the sheet, that pin is going to be there. So those extended team members who are logging in and kind of seeing that information will see those pins as well. Now, a question, I guess, about another question that's come in here is just, exactly how is this, shared out? And of course, you can email the sheets. So that is something that as you are going into your, Redline plans, a common use case there would be, you make a quick markup and then you just hit that email button. It's going to send that as an attachment directly to someone through email. But if we're really wanting to give an individual or the rest of your extended team more permanent access to these throughout the life of the project, then sharing it through that TeamLink portal is a wonderful way to do that, or through ClientLink, of course, for your clients and owners. So to do that, I'm just going to, all we would have to do is just assign our subcontractors for the job as TeamLink members for this project. And then that's really it. I've already set up my portal, so there's nothing else that I need to do. Back in the plan room, we just want to make sure that when I look at my TeamLink plans, that sharing is turned on. And now if we go in and take a look at the plans or drawings from our subcontractor's perspective, we can just preview what that looks like here. And you can see that they have access to the plan room as well. All of, again, that most current set. So these are all those V2s that we've been working on. And if we're assigning them to things and tagging them to the plans, then that's going to show up as well. So for example, here we've assigned our subcontractor Ted to this to-do. So that's going to be linked through the plan. He'll be able to click on it, again, go right into the plan room. So a lot of automation really that's happening here. All right, so it looks like that, just looking through the last couple of questions, it looks like that, I think that probably wraps us up for today. If you guys have questions that we didn't get to, we are happy to go over those with you individually. A couple of the ones I see are probably great for just an individual conversation, so we'll reach out to you there. We hope that you have learned a lot from today's webinar and that you'll be using Redline Planroom as you jump in and start doing that. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Either Jordan or myself or any of our colleagues here at UDA are happy to answer your questions or walk you through how to use Redline Planroom or anything else in ConstructionOnline. We do have some additional workshops coming up over the next couple of weeks, so we'll just take a look at that real quick as well. These are ones that you really don't want to miss. So today we've looked, of course, at Redline Planroom. Next week we'll be taking a look at submittals in ConstructionOnline. So if that's something that you have to manage, definitely you want to attend this session. It's going to be a great one, and we've made some wonderful improvements to submittals recently that I can't wait to show off. But I really want everyone, especially attending this next workshop on Thursday, August 6th, we'll be going over what's new for summer 2020, a roundup of all the new features and enhancements that we've added, looking at things like punch list and checklist imports, new options for file sharing, new options for your lead timeline, and all sorts of other wonderful new features. Too many to name, but I can't wait to go over those. And then we'll have an estimating workshop as we look at Thursday, August 13th. So hope to see you at some of those. And thank you again for spending some time with us this afternoon. Until next time.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and being able to share, and hopefully you all will take this away and really boost your efficiency in terms of communicating both current sets of plans and also changes to your teams moving forward. Until next time, take care.